If you've been a reseller for some time, you know all about the summer slowdown. It's usually just a pocket of time, and maybe not a small pocket of time, like a couple of months, where sellers find that their sales are just a little bit slower. For whatever reason, during the summer, a lot of sellers have trouble making sales. Their sales are just not what they are for the rest of the year. So it has been coined the summer slowdown. Some people don't think it exists, some people do. I do think it exists to some extent. If you're selling really desirable items, you might not see it as much, but if you don't live in an area or have the knowledge to source that kind of stuff, it can be really hard to make sales. So I wanted to do a video on my tips on what to do during the summer slowdown if you find that you're having trouble with your sales, because I know my sales are a little bit slow right now, and it can be frustrating and it can be a little bit panic inducing. Like, am I doing the right thing? Should I still be reselling? Is this worth my time? And I do want to tell you that as long as it's not something that's been going on for like a long time, there are ups and downs in reselling, and sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 months in a row can be lower than you expect. So you really do have to just take a look at your business over the course of maybe a year, or at least like 6 months, and see how you're doing over like a longer span of time, because just looking month to month can be a little bit misleading because there are just slow months. Some resellers don't have that problem at all. They are selling just like really desirable stuff, and we can all aspire to be that kind of reseller, but most of us average resellers do find just like mostly average stuff, and getting sales on stuff that isn't like highly desirable can be rough, especially during the summer. So if you don't believe in it, then maybe this isn't the video for you, or you can watch this video anyway and take some tips for when sales are slow in general. But if you are experiencing the summer slowdown, please do not panic. I do have some tips for you. So the first thing I'd like to do during the summer slowdown is kind of audit my inventory. During the summer slowdown, you're not selling as much, so you're not shipping as much, you're not dealing with as much inventory, and likely your cash flow is down, so you can't quite source as much unless you just have a lot of money saved up. And I find that it's not a good idea to just keep spending when your cash flow is down. I like to have a budget based on what's coming in and what's going out. I use the profit first method. If you want to go look up that book, I highly recommend it, and it keeps me on track so I'm not like going into debt over my business. So what I recommend doing is auditing your current listings. Literally just go through your listings, make sure the price is still right. If you listed it 6 months ago, the price might not be competitive anymore, and maybe that's why it's not selling and it's not going to sell. Check your pricing, check your titles to make sure there are still good keywords in them. If there are any other keywords you can add, you can go ahead and do that. Check the photos. If it's a bad photo or a lot of bad photos, then you can go ahead and redo the photos if it's worth it to you. And then sometimes there are just items that are not worth selling, or are not worth holding onto. So you can either clearance those out or just completely take them out of your store. I will usually either take them consignment, or once a year I like to have a big garage sale and I just sell a bunch of clothes for $1 because they were bad buys. If it's a bad buy, you can't force people to buy it. You can't force people to buy it. Another thing you want to do is audit your inventory. So you want to go through wherever you list, and you want to like print out a list of what you should have in your inventory, and then go through your physical items and make sure every single thing is there. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find items that somehow just like dropped off. Like maybe someone bought it and then canceled and didn't get relisted, or whatever happened. Usually I find some really good stuff that just hasn't been listed for whatever reason that's in my inventory as if it was listed, and you can go ahead and go relist those items. If you have a death pile, this is your time to get that listed. Since your cash flow is down because you're not making as many sales and you might not have the capital to go out and invest more money, this is the time to go into your death pile and start listing those items. When I feel overwhelmed by my death pile, what I do is I kind of sort it into 2 different piles. I usually sort it into stuff I want to list immediately, that I know is something that I'm excited to list and I'm going to get that up fast, and then stuff I want to deal with later. If you don't have a big death pile, this might not make sense for you, but a lot of us do tend to have a couple dozen things at least that have not been listed, and usually there's a reason, and it's time to tackle those things. So if it's something that has stains and you need to treat those stains, or if it's something that you're like, I don't want to sell this, I don't want to list it, it's just not going to happen, go ahead and figure out something else to do with it, and don't just keep hanging on to it. It's time to just kind of like clean out that death pile, whether you're listing it or redonating it. Another thing you can do is to try to make more sales using different tools that are available to you. There are tools like eBay promotions. I know a lot of people don't want to pay eBay more money. Why would you want to spend an extra 5 or 7%? But if it helps you make sales, sometimes it can be worth it. The thing is sometimes I will have a 10 or 15 or 20% off sale in my store. So I'm actually experimenting right now with turning off the sale and just upping my eBay promotions fee, because while I'd rather give the 10 or 15 or 20% off to the customer, if that's not working, I'm going to try giving it to eBay and see if I can actually get that item sold. Another thing you can do if you sell on Poshmark specifically is use a tool like Poshmark Sidekick. This is something I've been using for, I want to say, at least 6 months now, and they are actually today's sponsor. So Poshmark Sidekick is a Poshmark sharing tool. If you're a Poshmark user, you know you have to share your items at least once a day, preferably 2 or 3 times. But who has time for that? I've been using tools for years, and the one that I'm obsessed with right now is Poshmark Sidekick because I can do it from my phone and I don't have to have my computer even open. I sometimes forget about it, honestly, because it's just going in the background. I actually have mine sharing many times a day, my entire closet. I also have it set to automatically send a 10% off offer to any item that is liked within, I think, 5 minutes. So it's really great because they just like the item, it's fresh on their mind, they might still be looking around, and they get your offer. It's not like people accept that offer every single time, but it is a great opportunity to get a sale right when the person likes the items. And I believe there's a 7-day free trial if you want to try it out. I really love it. Click on the link in the description below if you want to check that out. The next thing you might want to do is cross-post your items. I personally use Vendoo to cross-post my items to eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari, but I am exploring cross-posting to other platforms like Whatnot and maybe Depop. If you're only listing on one platform, you're probably missing out on sales. Adding your item to more platforms is going to get more eyes on your items. It's going to get more customers kind of like in your store looking at your stuff, and increase your chances of selling each item. So I highly recommend cross-posting, especially if you're feeling like you need to make more sales. One thing I like to do during the summer slowdown is take advantage of yard sales. Yard sales are a really good way to get pretty affordable inventory. I personally shop at the Goodwill outlet or the bins where it's already really cheap, but if all you have is regular thrift stores, those are crazy with their prices right now. Like, most of the things at my thrift store are $8 to $10. Maybe regular like t-shirts are like $5.79, and kids clothes are like sometimes up there too. It's getting really expensive. If you do have capital, maybe try banning yourself from the Goodwill or from the thrift stores and just doing yard sales for a while, because most of the time at yard sales, you're buying items for like $1, $2, $3, and it can be a really good way to get really good inventory, because a lot of times people will have a yard sale first and then donate everything, so you can get a hold of that better stuff and kind of build up your inventory with actually really good stuff for a lower cost. Usually yard sale season is only like maybe 4 to 6 months, so taking advantage of it while it's here is a good idea, especially if you have less cash flow and you want to be able to get inventory at a better price. Another thing I like to do during the summer is prep for fourth quarter. And I know you're like, it's June, why are we prepping for fourth quarter? Because once fourth quarter hits, sales do start rolling a little bit faster because the holidays are coming up. People are just doing more shopping. I find that a lot of people are buying a lot of like sweaters and stuff because suddenly they're freezing, because the weather is changing and seasons are changing. And I just like to be really prepared for that ahead of time, because I'm already going to see a spike in sales and I'm going to already be shipping more. The holidays are already so busy. So if I can preload my store in June, July, August, September, and have so much stuff that I don't have to list like crazy during that crazy part of the year, then I'm all for it. I'd rather list slowly over the next couple of months, even though sales aren't great, so that way when fourth quarter comes, I don't have to like cram in hundreds of listings to make sure I have my store stocked to make all of those fourth quarter sales. And the last thing is, maybe you just take a break. I was just talking about fourth quarter, and it is really hard to take a break during that time. So if it's slow, maybe just use it as a forced break if you can afford to. If you're a full-time reseller and this is your main source of income and you're really relying on it, then that's different. But if you're finding that sales are slow and you're stressed out about it and nothing you do is really bumping them the way you want them to, I'm not saying completely stop, but maybe just take a step back and take that time to relax. Most of us are working too hard. Spend time with your family. Go do that project you keep saying you're going to do, but you never have time to do. Whatever you need to do to just take a break and just relax a little bit. If sales are slow, don't stress yourself out about it if you don't need to. A lot of us really do need more downtime. It's not hustle, hustle, hustle all the time. It's not good for your mental or physical health. Even if it's just like taking a week off from sourcing or only listing one item a day so you're still consistent but not working so hard. Whatever you need to do to feel like you can kind of like take a breath and like not feel so overwhelmed. So I want to hear from you. Do you believe in the summer slowdown? Are there any other tips that you would like to share with everybody else? Go ahead and leave those down in the comments. And again, thank you to Poshmark Sidekick for sponsoring this video. If you want to check out Poshmark Sidekick, go ahead and click the link in the description below, and I will see you next time. Bye.